Okay, so I know there are a lot of videos going around like this one, but I thought I'd make this to go over some of the lesser mentioned problems with Elden Ring. I've been playing these games since DS1 back in 2011. I instantly fell in love with the game once it clicked. Finding my way back to Firelink from the Undead Parish made me truly feel like an adventurer. Back then, the bosses felt truly fair and balanced. There wasn't any 20 hit combos or roll slop moves, just pure fun. The healing speed was slow, but it was fair for the way the bosses were designed. Fast forward to today, a few months after Shadowly Erdtree dropped, and with it, Fromsoft has also dropped. Miyazaki's current boss design is insanely lazy now. There's no time to heal between the 8 trillion hit combos, unavoidable hits, and constant barrage of input reading. The bosses in Elden Ring have near zero openings. No, not near. Absolutely zero openings. And each combo requires at least 5 rolls. I don't see how anyone could find this roll slop fun. FromSoft could have at least added in other ways to counter the boss's attacks. I mean, these bosses just attack endlessly without any rhyme or reason. It's so random. I don't even think the bosses are even hard, they're just boring to fight. Watching them attack 100 times, then only getting to attack one time yourself is something I don't see how a single soul could find fun. I miss the days where there were clear and precise openings after each attack. Now I want to talk about artificial difficulty, something that many people in the community both agree on its meaning and also agree with me that the game has a lot of it. The bosses in Elden Ring are hard for all the wrong reasons. It's kind of like FromSoft just half-assedly made a cool-looking monster, but then gave it only cheap tricks that no human can even react to reasonably, or delayed attacks that are so long it's impossible to master the timing on. The reaction speed required for some of these attacks is truly astonishing. Frame 1 attacks fill this game. I can't spam jump L1s without regard for what the boss is doing unless I want to trade hits and be punished. I long for the days of DS1's bosses that require actual skill and critical thinking as opposed to just spamming roll and hoping not to get roll caught, which is damn near impossible as every boss in the game has an unfair and unavoidable roll catching move. Bosses nowadays have next to no tells either. Oh, his hair follicle slightly raised on his left arm. I better somehow realize that means he's doing his frame one shot attack. At least in Sekiro, these bosses made sense. You get the powerful deflect option, which makes dealing with the high attack speed actually feasible and respondable. It's like instead of actually making bosses that would fit into Elden Ring and make sense with the combat system, they just went ahead and designed a bunch of extra bosses while they were doing Sekiro and then just threw them in Elden Ring, gave you almost zero way to actually engage with it. I think if they simply just included Sekiro's reviving mechanic in the game, it would make Elden Ring perfect. In Sekiro, it made sense that the bosses would never stop attacking you. In Elden Ring, you simply have to just watch the boss do anime flips for 5 minutes before you get your turn. There isn't a single boss in this game that you can first try by dodging attacks intuitively like in the past games. It's turned into a trash trial and error die fest where your natural skill gets you absolutely nowhere. They're so incredibly fast that the only time you can punish regularly is with a fast weapon. I just want to be able to use my beloved Zweihander fairly. The bosses are not possible aggressively without hit trading or a fast weapon where you might be able to squeeze in an R1 without taking damage. Did I mention how lazy these developers have gotten now? They barely design these bosses. They're F tier, unfair bosses without any thought of balance. And then they simply added spirit summons to counter that. rather than making the bosses actually doable solo. They didn't even finish most of the bosses, as something is broken in the AI that causes them to just attack endlessly without stopping. The bosses were made hard in the cheapest way possible. Hyperinflated attack numbers and health bar. Every single boss in the game two-shots you, even with 60 vigor. What's worse, the game doesn't even give you a single tool to negate damage with, nor does it have any way to limit or manipulate the boss's moveset in your favor. Back in the day, these bosses had actual complexity instead of faux complexity, instead of just constant attack spam. Let's look at Slave Knight Gale. Dude had a huge HP bar, 3 phases, and incredible lore. Just 2 nobodies fighting it out at the end of the world. It was so complex while still being actually fair. None of these bosses, before or after Gale, will ever compete to how great he is. He's the greatest boss of all time. Nothing has or ever will come close to his immaculate glory. Bosses back then had fair recovery times for attacking and healing, while bosses in Elden Ring often completely cancel the end of their recovery and immediately go into a, yes, you guessed it, 8 trillion hit combo. The absolute only thing the developers cared about at all is cheaply killing you. That is it. That is it. They took Prepare to Die to absolute astronomically bullshit levels. You know, it'd be one thing if there was a semblance of consistency with these bosses, but often a punish will be safe sometimes, while other times get you killed. These bosses are damn near unbeatable, unless you want to resort to an OP build or OP spirit summons to distract the boss so that you have time to heal. There are 0 healing opportunities with these bosses due to the incredibly slow Estus sipping animation. I think if they just sped up the healing speed by, let's say, like 300%, the whole game would have been perfect. Even when you do successfully get a heal off, the boss punishes you a second after. It takes all 14 Estus just to get back to full health one time. And you know what? Elden Ring actually did include some very fun mechanics like jumping and the stance breaking system. Really great ideas. The problem is, there's absolutely no way to possibly figure out which attacks you can jump over because there's no indicator like in Sekiro. The stance meter suffers the same issue. Since you can't see it, there's no way to know whether you should go for a heal or break their stance with the charge R2. None of these systems really matter anyways though, because you'll never get an attack off. Most bosses input read you every single time you try to attack or heal, even if they're already in the middle of another attack. I spent a lot of time and effort constructing this critique, over 2 years. It's not just some first impressions, one playthrough review. I can already see what some of you are going to say in the comments. Oh, you gotta get good. Oh, bro, you need to learn the bosses before making something like this. Skill issue, the video. And to that I say, you never played these games until Elden Ring, so your opinion isn't valid here. Just simply glazing for the sake of it. People overlooking humongous flaws because, God forbid, someone criticized their precious game they've spent 8,000 hours on. Just a warning, too. If you insult me in the comments, that's illegal. I may take action. Anyways, if you want more well thought out and knowledgeable info on why Elden Ring bosses are bad, I highly suggest checking out Feeble King's awesome first Elden Ring critique and his Shadow of the Erd Tree critique, as well as Democracy's Shadow of the Erd Tree critique. They can put the flaws into words much more elegantly than I can. I love you, Joseph.